Let me start with a short story. A teenager wakes up in a neighborhood most people never pay attention to. They open their closet, nothing fancy, nothing curated, just the way they have. They mix pieces and it's available. And somehow it works. It looks fresh, it looks bold, it looks real. Now, holding that image in your mind, because a few months later, that same look, that same silhouette, that same attitude appears on a runway in Paris. A celebrity posts it on Instagram, and a fashion editor calls it the new wave. And I stand there thinking, wait, we've seen this before, just not on a runaway. This is the bubble effect. Fashion that doesn't trickle down from the elite, but rises from the streets. My name is Ariadna Castillo, and this is the bubble effect when fashion rises from the streets to elite. Fashion doesn't only move from top to bottom. For decades, we believe fashion started with royalty, couture houses, influencers at the top of the pyramid, and then slowly spread downward. But that's only the half of the story. Some of the most impactful global trends, the ones that shape decades, begin in places that society often ignores: working class, immigrant communities, youth cultures that create not because they want to be trendy, but because they want to be seen. Fashion doesn't just descend, it climbs. And when it climbs, it changes the whole system. It starts with authenticity, with survival, with necessity. Baggy pants, because you share clothes with your older cousin. Oversized jackets, because they last 5 winters. Workwear, because it's durable. Sneakers, because you walk everywhere. Chains, hoops, colors, patterns, not as a statement of luxury, as a statement of identity. Not a stylist is involved, no marketing team, no trend forecasts. It's pure expression. And then someone sees it, an artist, a photographer, a designer. They're drawn to the energy, the honest, the raw edge, and suddenly, quietly at first, the look travels upward. A musician adopts it. A brand reinterprets it. A runway reclaims it. And what was considered too street, too poor, too loud becomes the very definition of cool. That's the bubble effect in motion. Why does this happen? Because creativity thrives where pressure exists. Because when resources are limited, imagination becomes limitless. Because style becomes a voice long before two people are allowed to speak. Communities invent not for aesthetics, but for life, for visibility, for pride, for power. And the fashion industry, always chasing authenticity, turns to these communities for inspiration, sometimes without ever acknowledging them. The uncomfortable part. When fashion rises from lower classes to upper classes, a problem emerges. Who gets credit? A luxury brand can make millions from a look created by someone who has never stepped in a fashion week venue. A style that was just or ridiculed becomes desirable only once the elite wear. The context get erased. The politics get erased. The origins get erased. And that's when we must ask, are we honoring creativity or exploding it? Because fashion doesn't exist in a vacuum. It sits inside culture, class, race, power. The bubble effect is not just about clothing. It's about inequality. What the bubble effect reveals? Fashion is storytelling. It's sociology you can wear. It's a map of how ideas travel between people who don't always interact in daily life. When a trend rises, it reveals influence, and influence rarely flows in one direction. It reminds us that brilliance doesn't live only in design studios of luxury boutiques. It lives in bus stops, in street markets, in schoolyards, in the places we're taught not to look. So, next time you see a trend, I want you to pause, just for a moment and ask, who were this first? Who created this before it was accepted? Whose voice is behind this silhouette? Because the bubble effect isn't just a phenomenon, it's an invitation to pay attention, to give credit, to honor origins, to recognize that innovation often comes from the people society sees last. Maybe next big designer isn't showing in Paris. Maybe they're walking in the street of a neighborhood that most of the world has never bothered to see. Thank you.